friends, I'm Krista. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today we are going to be talking about my June wrap-up. Now in June I did something a little bit different. I used a random number generator to decide on some random books from my Goodreads owned TBR shelf. I have over 600 unread books on my shelves, and that is kind of crazy. So I thought I would do something a little fun and randomize my picks. Now, unfortunately, I picked 5 books and I didn't touch any of them in the month of June, which is kind of shameful, but it's okay because I did still read 7 books, finished one at the very beginning of July that I'm going to talk about, and had one that I set down for now. I'm not going to say DNF because it is on my 2018 TBR shelf, and so I do still want to try to pick it up again before the end of the year. I have a couple clips from earlier in the month that talk about some of the books I read, so I will play those now. I feel like it's very appropriate to be in my car to tell you about the first 2 books that I read in the month of June because I listened to 2 audiobooks. By June 2nd, I had finished both of them because I had quite a long trip. The first one I listened to is called This Is Me by Chrissy Metz. She's the actress who plays Kate on This Is Us, which is one of my absolute favorite shows of all time because I relate to it so hard. But Chrissy Metz has a memoir out right now called This Is Me, and I really enjoyed listening to this. I think it might be my first nonfiction of the year, which is kind of sad because it's June. We're halfway through. But I listened to it. I really loved it. I really appreciated her outlook on life and just the way she approaches situations and things that happen to her, both the good and the bad. She had a very logical and not emotional response to things. And I don't know if that's like looking back on things, it's easier to have a more logical analysis of things instead of being caught in the emotions of the moment. So I don't know how accurate it is for things that happen in the moment, but just the way she approaches things was very refreshing. I loved her positivity. I loved her humor. I just really enjoyed listening to this book, and it made me want to finish This Is Us because I'm a little bit behind. So yeah, I would recommend it. It wasn't super long. It was uplifting and inspiring at times, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. The second book I listened to was a Casey West book, By Your Side. I really enjoy listening to Casey West books in the car, apparently, because this is like the second or third one that I've done this way. I like them because they are on the lighter side, YA romances, and just kind of fluff books, but I appreciate that. Especially in the car ride. It kept my interest. It was fast paced. In By Your Side, it's about 2 teenagers who get trapped in a library for a long weekend. So the library gets locked up and they're stuck in there. It's kind of a hate to love. They are not friends in school. The boy kind of has a bad reputation, so he's kind of the bad boy, and the girl is the goody two-shoes. She tries to keep this image, and I appreciated the look at anxiety that this book portrays. I found it relatable even though I don't have anxiety. I found her reactions to things and the way she was dealing with it very relatable. So I really enjoyed this book. It was just a 3-star read for me. None of Casey West's books have blown me away, but they are just a lot of fun. So I did enjoy listening to both of those. On the way back from my trip, I listened to a lot of The Assassin's Apprentice, but I will talk to you about that very shortly. It is a Thursday evening, and I am sitting outside waiting for my mom to come visit me from New York. I'm super excited. I don't know when exactly she's going to be here, but it is raining currently. I'm not sure if you can hear the rain, but it is raining, and I just thought I would take a quick few minutes to tell you about a few more books that I have read so far this month. So the first one I want to talk to you about is Robin Hobb's Assassin's Apprentice. I have heard so much good things about this series, in particular Robin Hobb's, well, any of Robin Hobb's books, from so many booktubers that I absolutely love, and I'm very excited to be reading this along with 4 other ladies on BookTube. So we are doing a group buddy read. We're actually currently about to start the second one as well. This one is the start of a trilogy, and I believe Robin Hobb has a couple different trilogies that are all set in the same world, and I'm not sure if this is the first one or not, but it's the first one that I've read. So it's about this young boy who is a bastard child of one of the princes of this king. This starts when he's quite young, maybe 6, 7, or 8. It's just kind of telling his life story, I guess, in this trilogy. So in this book we get him until he's about 13, 14, It is pretty slow paced, very character driven, but there's enough action that kept me interested, and I really love the way Robin Hobb is world building. It's so realistic and alive, and you can just see and hear all of the sounds and tastes, and she's super detailed, but not in a way that bored me. I really enjoyed this, and I'm really looking forward to continuing on with this trilogy. The next one is Legendary by Stephanie Garber. This is the sequel to Caraval, which I read just a couple months ago and really liked, and I am very glad that I read that pretty close to when this one was released. So this was just released in May, at the end of May, I believe. So I am very excited to be very current with this one, and I really enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it quite as much as I enjoyed Caraval. So in Caraval there are two sisters, and Caraval is kind of this almost like a live action role-playing type, not circus, almost like a mystery that you have to solve, but it's a very broad spectrum of people that are involved and places. And the first book followed one of the sisters mainly, and this book we kind of follow a little bit more of the second sister, the other sister. It took a little bit longer to get going for me, but once it got going, I really did enjoy it. So yeah, I know Caraval isn't for everybody. It was kind of a mixed bag of people who liked it and people who didn't. So if you liked Caraval, you might be a little bit disappointed by Legendary, but also it has a lot that made it fun as well. So I am really glad that I read this one. The third book that I'm going to talk about was my Goodreads read-along book for the month of June. And that was The Unseen World by Liz Moore. I had high expectations for this because I know so many people really loved it. And there was a lot that I did really love about this book, but there was a couple sections that bored me, and the ending I found very unsatisfying. So in this book we follow this girl Ada and her father. He's a single dad, and their relationship is very close but very unique. She is homeschooled by him. He is the head of a research lab, computer science research lab at a college, and so their relationship was really odd right from the beginning. So we knew that there was something going on. I knew that there was something going on, and as it unfolded, yeah, there was a lot of mystery in their relationship and what happened. I really enjoyed the characters that were in here. I really liked the relationship between Ada and David, even though it was quite odd. But there was one part of this book that I just really didn't like at all, and my mom is here, so I'm going to be done with that. Go to the Goodreads group if you want to know more about this one, and I'll talk to you soon. Let me just talk about this one a little bit more, because I don't remember how clearly I got my thoughts across because my mom was showing up right when I was talking about it. I had heard such wonderful things about this book, and there was a lot that I did enjoy. However, there was a couple things I was disappointed in as well. One of the main storylines was about this computer sort of beginning stages of artificial intelligence, and it went really deep in detail about how that process was at the beginning and how a computer can learn language and what this group of research scientists did to teach it how to learn language. And it bored me, really. And then I was not at all satisfied with the ending. But those things aside, I really did enjoy the characters that were in here. I enjoyed the relationships that were in here. I enjoyed the little bit of mystery that's in this book. So I did overall really enjoy this book. There was just a few things that didn't sit so well with me. So hopefully that's a little more clear than what I talked about out on my porch. The book that I decided to set down that's on my 2018 TBR shelf is Uncommon Type by Tom Hanks. I started out buddy reading this with Katie from Life Between Words, but I decided to set it down because I really just had no motivation at this point in time to read these short stories. I'm not really enjoying the stories themselves, although if I do pick it up again, I may try to find the audiobook because I know Tom Hanks narrates it, and I really can hear his voice in these stories. So I feel like listening to him read them would be much more enjoyable for me. One of the things I don't like is he gives a lot of detail into things that I don't know very much about, and while that can be fun sometimes, I don't really enjoy it. I do enjoy the few stories at the beginning that had to do with family dynamics because I think he portrayed those really well. But there's one story that those characters have showed up again in another one that all of those characters, I don't really enjoy them. They kind of annoy me, a couple of them. So I was really disappointed when I saw another story that has those characters. So I'm not quite, well, I'm I'm just about halfway through, so I probably will pick it up again at some point, but like I said, I will try to find the audiobook for that. If you watched my June book haul revisit, you know the only two books that I hadn't read yet from that haul were Homefront and Distant Shores, I think, from Kristen Hanna. So I did pick up Homefront, which is one that's been on my shelf for over 2 years. Well, exactly 2 years. And I really loved this book. It's so funny. I have to be sure to rate and write a review on Goodreads before I look at reviews, because once I looked at reviews, I could understand the problems that people had with this book. So in this story, we have a married couple and their children. The wife has kind of shut herself off emotionally. She tries to stay super positive because of her childhood and the way that she was raised. Her husband starts to have real problems with that, and there's a lot of miscommunication, and I mean, at the point where they're almost separating from each other. But she is a military pilot, and she gets called up to war. So this happens in the early 2000s, shortly after 9/11. So she gets called up to go to Iraq. And her husband has a lot of problems with that. But ultimately, I get so emotionally connected to Kristen Hanna's books, and I really loved the story. I love seeing marriages that are not all hunky-dory, that have some problems, and then hoping for that reconciliation, and I love it when it happens. I loved the way that this family grew through her having to go to war. There were some obviously very heartbreaking moments. Yeah, I really did enjoy this story. There's a bit of holes. Once I took myself out of the emotions of it and read some other reviews, I can see those holes. But when I'm in a book and feeling it, I don't notice all of the flaws with it because I'm just so emotionally connected to it. And Kristen Hanna has a wonderful way of bringing me right in. And then finally, the book that I finished on July 2nd, I'm counting because it is Royal Assassin, and it's massive. I think there's like 675 pages, and I read most of that in June, so I'm going to talk about this one too. I can't say very much about it because it is the sequel to the one I read earlier in June, Assassin's Apprentice, but this is the continuation of Fitz's story. He is now a teenager into a young man, and there's a lot of drama in the royal court and a lot of secrets and betrayal, but Fitz really learns even more of who he is, and he's starting to have more confidence in himself, and a lot of things happen that carry on stories from the first book. And I had heard a lot of reviews that say this one is much slower than the first one, but I found it to be, even though I didn't fly through it, it did take me some time. However, I felt like the pace gradually increased throughout the book, because by the last like 150, 200 pages, I was absolutely captivated. I couldn't pull myself away from it by the end of it. So while it did start a little slow, I felt like it continued to keep me interested, and by the end, I just couldn't put it down. You've seen my July TBR, however, I am not going to be reading the third book until August, because in July, I'm being very strict and only reading books from that shelf. So here are the 6 books that I read this month, plus one that I read half of, and then I had 2 audiobooks as well. Those are the books that I read during the month of June. I'm really pleased with my reading throughout the month. I feel like so many of those were wonderful. I'm a little bummed I didn't get to the ones I wanted to from my random picking action at the beginning of the month, but I'm really pleased with what I did read. I'm excited for July. So I would love to chat with you down in the comments below. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the books I read this month, or what your favorite book was from the month of June. I know I'm posting this just a little bit late. It's still before the 10th, so I feel like I'm in a good place. But I would love to chat with you down below, and I look forward to talking to you in another video very soon. Bye!